Hey, hi, how are you? My name is Felt. Welcome back to some Magic the Gathering, but it's not gameplay today. Today, we're just talking about bans. Was it announced that about 10 days after this video comes out, May 29th, they're issuing a wave of bans? And I say bans plural, but it might be singular, but regardless, I hope some of these cards you see in front of you get hit with a ban hammer. Now, I don't think all of these absolutely 100% deserve to be banned, but I do think some of these cards are the problem cards of the format, so I won't be surprised if these cards or similar cards get hit by the ban hammer. Two of them, I believe, absolutely need to get banned, beyond a shadow of a doubt. And then the third one probably needs to get banned, and then these two here, might get banned. These two, I don't know. We'll discuss them as we get there, but I wouldn't be surprised if one or the other got hit with a ban hammer. But let's start with the two cards that I believe need to get banned. Let's start with the most obvious thing in the world, Fable. This thing needs to get gone. This thing needs to get gone yesterday. This thing is a format warping powerhouse. It makes a goblin token that you need to answer. It gives you hand sculpting by letting you discard 2, draw 2. And then it makes another thing that needs answering because it will start cloning your incredibly powerful creatures. This thing is insane. It does so much, and it's one of the reasons why Rakdos was so popular at the latest Pro Tour event. You know what Rakdos runs? Red. You know what's great in red? Fable of the Mirror Breaker. The card's insane. It does so much. It deserves a ban. It really, really does. A lot of what makes best of 3 at the moment for Magic the Gathering is Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And I'm clarifying best of 3 because in best of 1, it's not as good, but it is still insanely powerful and still absolutely deserves a ban. Best of 3 is where it gets to shine, though, because you get to craft your game plan around, okay, well, I want to resolve Fable. Okay, but I have to answer these threats as well, but I still resolve Fable. Another card that I believe deserves a ban that might shock some people is actually Reckoner Bankbuster. I think this card enables way too many mid-range decks in order to be able to thrive. It allows decks in colors that don't normally have great card draw to all of a sudden have great card draw. I'm looking at you, mono black. This card basically allows you to play mono black and have a creature in there that draws cards that isn't even like that big of a deal. Evolved Sleeper used to kind of take this thing's slot in mono black midrange, but it cost more mana and life in order to draw those cards. Meanwhile, you could just slap in a Reckoner Bankbuster, pay 2 and a tap, and oh boy, you're drawing cards. It's a little too much. And when you finish it, you get a 1/1 that can crew the Buster, which is insane, because it takes a crew 3, even if most of the good cards of the format do have 3 power anyways, it's still insane. And makes a treasure token at the end of all that. This card is way too good. It does way too much, and it is really a problem child of the format. I would not be shocked if it saw a ban. Fable's getting banned. If Fable doesn't get banned, I think there'll actually be riots in the streets. I really think Bankbuster is getting banned as well, but that's just my opinion, based on what I've seen out there and how often you see Bankbuster in mid-range piles of decks. Invoke Despair, I think, might get hit with a ban hammer. Personally, I think it should be banned, but I don't think Wizards thinks it should be banned, but we will find out. I personally think that it really, really needs to just get gone. It is a black spell that is surprisingly easy to cast at this point in the meta because of stuff like Fable giving you free treasure tokens. But on top of that, it gets around targeting outside of targeting a player's face, and there's actually not a ton that gives people hexproof in this meta other than like Surge of Salvation. And then it causes sacrifice effects. It's not even targeting the things. It's not even target 3 things and kill them. It's your opponent sacrifices those things, so it goes around indestructible. It's just really, really good. And it makes mono black have enchantment removal, something that mono black has only had like 1, maybe 2 cards that do, and one of those cost life to cast. This one costs your opponent's life when you cast it. It's too good. It's too good, and with all the other cards that are available at the moment, I think it's just way too strong. The fact that it just gets rid of so many threats that are hard for black to deal with without a care in the world, while simultaneously, potentially, giving them card draw, I think it needs to go. I think it does way too much. I don't think it's as format warping as Fable. Once again, you look at the latest Pro Tour, and you saw how many decks were running a deck list that used Fable to ramp into a Chandra to double cast Invoke Despair or double cast Breach the Multiverse. I don't think Breach is quite ban-worthy, but we'll get to why I think that in a bit. Bloodtithe Harvester, something that you might be surprised to see on this list. I believe he's a problem child. I believe he's a problem child, though, because he enables the Rakdos mid-range deck that is ruling the meta in terms of best of 3. Best of 1, obviously, different conversation. But this guy still holds up in best of 1. They recently just added in Rakdos Fastlands that don't give you pain. Want to know who loves that? Bloodtithe Harvester. Want to know who gives you a free looting effect? Bloodtithe Harvester. Want to know who can be sacrificed to kill your opponent's creatures that have indestructible? Bloodtithe fucking Harvester. And you can clone him with Fable of the Mirror Breaker. I think this card's really strong. I think it's insanely strong. I think it does so much while being a 3/2 for 2 mana. I will say this rant should be prefaced by the fact that I don't actually know if it'll get banned, and I'm personally leaning towards it won't. But I believe it's part of the problem that is the Rakdos powerhouse at the moment. But the ban on Fable might make it a little less viable, because you won't be able to just dupe it for free to sacrifice the dupe to kill bigger stuff. But I do still think it's a problematic card. I won't be surprised if it gets banned, and I think it might deserve it. But in terms of what should be banned, it might see it, which is really weird for an uncommon, but with Rakdos ruling the meta so much, I don't know. I do not know. Sheoldred is another card that I think might see a ban. I think this card might get hit by a ban. I don't think that it will. I think Wizards won't hit their baby, and by baby I mean their moneymaker, because this card is goddamn expensive. But I don't know. It's once again part of the problem child that is this Rakdos nonsense that rules the day, which also, it's a card that also enables mono black to just be incredibly powerful and have really easy to attain life gain inside of it. And combine that with something like, I don't know, your Reckoner Bankbuster, who draws cards and that'll gain you life, or your Invoke Despair, which will draw cards and gain you life. Sheoldred kind of looks like a problem. I don't know if she'll get banned. Once again, I think it's a little lower on the likelihood, but I think it's definitely a possibility. And let's look at these last two here. Itali Primal Conqueror and Atraxa Grand Unifier. Y'all are probably, I'll probably see these cards a lot in Standard. Like a lot. That's for good reason. They're insanely good. Itali slams himself into any Rakdos pile super easily because you can ramp to him with Fable of the Mirror Breaker. You can sculpt your hand to go find him, or you can throw him in the graveyard and get him back with Cruelty of Gix. I think he's a bit of a problem child, but I don't think he's as bad as the other cards we've talked about so far. I think the fact that he has a cast trigger... Oh, sorry, he doesn't have a cast trigger. Misspoke. He doesn't have a cast trigger. It's an enter the battlefield trigger. It makes it a little bit better, but it's not great. I wouldn't be surprised if he catches a stray, but I would also be a little surprised if he catches a stray, because he has such randomness. The number of times I've pointed and laughed at a person who's reanimating a tally because they hit, like a counter spell off the top of my deck, it gives me a right giggle. Because sometimes they'll just like hit stuff that's not very good off of the Italia, which I think makes it a little better, but it's still incredibly strong. Another card that I think might see the ban hammer, and this one's probably a little more likely, is Atraxa. Now, I think that Atraxa is less likely to see it if you get rid of Fable and Reckoner Bankbuster and Bloodtithe Harvester and all that. I think if some of those other cards get hit with the ban hammer, we're less likely to see an Atraxa ban because she is enabled by those cards. And for comparison, the decks that run her are either the, Rakdos mid-range pile, throw her in the graveyard, Cruelty of Gix will get her later, or the 5-color domain deck whose entire strategy is ramp like crazy and then slam an Atraxa, which in my opinion feels a little better because they had to craft their entire deck around the idea of, I need to get a lot of mana out, play my big card so I can use it to play a bunch of finishers and profit off of that, as opposed to the Rakdos game plan of, yeah, Fable threw Atraxa in the graveyard a few turns ago, let me refill my hand by playing Cruelty of Gix now. You don't even have to match the colors, you just play Cruelty of Gix for 5, put it on the 3rd counter, and whoop, Atraxa's back in play, and you get to refill your hand. Don't get me wrong, that type of gameplay loop doesn't get solved by the banning of the other cards, but I think it would be much less likely if Fable got kicked out. Grixis not having a solid 3-drop that's as profitable as Fable would really, really hurt Rakdos. And Grixis. I don't know if I said Grixis or Rakdos, but either one of them would get hurt by that a lot. But this is just my opinions here. What do you think? Do you think these cards will get banned? Do you think any of these cards will get banned? Do you think none of these cards will get banned? Do you think other cards might get banned? I personally think that these two up here are the most likely, and then it gets less and less and less likely as you go down the list. Actually, if I was going to do that, I would do this. But these are cards that I think are problematic, I think might see bans. Let's talk about what you think. This is my personal opinion and listing. Leave comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more random content on the channel. And I hope to catch you all next time.